Welcome to Inside Brussels, the European Conservatives' monthly news show from the very heart of the European Union. This episode is special as there's only one day left until hundreds of millions of Europeans have the chance to have their voices heard about what kind of Europe they want to see in the next 5 years. This weekend, we are electing a new European Parliament with all 720 seats up for re-election. However, it's not one, but rather 27 different races, with each EU member state having its elections on different days and with slightly different rules. The voting age is 18 in most European countries, with the exception of Greece, where it's set at 17, and 4 countries, Germany, Australia, Belgium, and Malta, where people as young as 16 can vote in the EU election. So it will be interesting to see which direction the youngest generations are turning. The number of MEPs that get elected by each country also differs by the relative size of the member states. For example, Germany alone can elect nearly 100 MEPs, while the smallest countries get only 6 seats each. This means that the larger the country, the more influence it has the overall outcome of this election. Tomorrow will be crucial, as people in most EU countries, including the 3 largest ones, France, Germany, and Italy, will go to the polls. The election has already been held in several countries, such as the Netherlands, the exit polls of which we will discuss in a minute. Although you only vote for the members of the European Parliament, the MEPs you choose will also have an influence on the next college of the Commission, as well as the new Commission President. So mind your vote if you don't want another 5 years of Ursula von der Leyen, who never respected one of the most basic rules of democracy, accountability. But whoever you choose, it's important to remember that this election has much larger stakes than you think. Every decision that comes out of the European Commission has to go through the European Parliament first, where MEPs that you choose can decide which direction they take, whether it's about agriculture, migration, or defense. It is my pleasure to welcome our senior columnist, Mick Hume, in the studio with me. Thank you, Mick, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
There are many topics, issues that are dominating the political discussion, things that we took an in-depth look at in our previous episodes, as well as our election guide, The Stakes. Mick, what do you think are the most important of these that people, voters, should keep in mind before they go to the polls tomorrow?
Well, I think, Zsófia, apart from the perennial issues like the economy, 2 things have really come to the fore over the last 5 years during this European Parliament. One is the Green Deal, through which Brussels, by chasing these fantastic made-up climate targets, is destroying European agriculture, closing 800 farms a day across the European Union, and threatening the industry and cost of and standard of living for Europeans everywhere. That's one issue. The other issue is mass migration, which through the Migration Pact, Brussels is now trying to impose quotas on the member states to take increasing numbers of what are basically illegal migrants and threatening them with fines if they refuse to do so. And that is threatening the way of life of Europeans right across the continent. So the Green Deal and migration, but behind those issues, there are bigger questions. Both of those things are really about national sovereignty and democracy. Another way of saying it is the big unasked question in this election is who rules in Europe? Who decides the future of Europe? Is it to be the Brussels bureaucracy or the elected national governments of the member states? Is it to be the political elites, or is it to be the peoples of Europe themselves? Really, there are 2 Europes. There is the official Europe, occupied by the commissioners, the green popes, the bankers, who are making the decisions about what's right for the rest of us. And there is the real world of Europe, where millions of Europeans live with the consequences. And what we see in this campaign, in the populist upsurge that we're hoping is going to happen, and is already happening, we can see it in the Netherlands, is that Europe is the party in Portugal, Chega, which is doing so well, the populist party, its name translates as enough. And that's really the message, I think, that millions of Europeans are giving the political elites in Brussels this week. We have had enough. As the farmers protesting down here outside the European Parliament said earlier this year with a banner which kind of captured the sentiments of not only the farming communities, but millions of Europeans who support them, this is not the Europe we want. And I think that's the issue people have got to remember we're voting on. Vote for parties that will defend national sovereignty, that will stand for democracy, that will stand with the farmers, that will stand with Israel in the war for democracy against Hamas. And those are the bigger issues, I think, which should be on the table.
As you mentioned in your latest democracy column, the leftist mainstream is trying to portray the conservatives' expected gains as the result of Russian disinformation.
Yes.
But it's not a new strategy, is it?
No, well, we've seen this 2016. I was in Britain campaigning for Brexit. We were told that was all, people voted Brexit because of Russian bots and disinformation. People voted for Trump in America, apparently, because of Russian bots and disinformation. Now we see the same gambit being tried here. They're already getting their excuses in before the election. Von der Leyen, the president of the Commission, talking about a European democracy shield to protect Europeans from being infected by Russian disinformation. And using the word democracy, as they always do, in order to attack democracy and attack free speech and have more censorship online of what we're allowed to see, think and talk about. And what these are really an attack on, when they try and blame the Russians, what they're really doing is attacking the European electors, the voters. What they're saying is you people are so stupid, so gullible, that you'll believe whatever the Russians put online, and that's why you're voting. It isn't because couldn't possibly be because the EU's made a disastrous mess of everything. Couldn't possibly be because we've destroyed agriculture and industry and swamped the continent with illegal migrants. It couldn't be anything to do with that. It has to be because these stupid people have been duped by Russian propaganda. We've got to say to them, don't blame the Russians when Europe votes right this week, because it's just that Europeans have had enough of being told what's best for them.
Thank you so much, Mick. As I said, not all EU countries vote on Sunday. The first to finish was the Netherlands on Thursday, followed by Ireland on Friday, and people from Czechia, Slovakia, Latvia and Malta are lining at the ballots as we speak. We won't have official results from the early countries until tomorrow evening, but we have the first exit polls of the first two widely different countries. I'm here with Scarlett Karoleva from Greeks Europe to talk about the first exit polls from the Netherlands. Thank you so much, Scarlett, for joining me.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So how did your countrymen vote?
We voted conservative and we voted right-winged because we can establish that the PVV is actually the big winner. We have the first exit poll, so I really want people to know at home that it can still change. The definite result we'll see on Sunday tomorrow. But so far, the PVV is listed to have 7 seats. This is an increase of 6 seats. They only had 1 in the previous elections. So they are the big winner. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people are actually focusing on the fact that the Social Greens are the biggest party. They have 8 seats, so 1 more than Wilders. But let's not forget that the Greens and the Socials started to fuse together. So it was a very strategical coalition that turned out to pay off. But still, they lost a seat. So let's hope this is going to set a precedent for the rest of Europe.
We got the first exit polls from the early voters.
Yes.
Of course, the numbers can change and we will see the final results tomorrow. But I wonder whether we could make some predictions for the rest of Europe based on the recent exit polls we've seen. It's a hard question, I know.
Yes, because polls are always very unreliable and they can still change in the last minute depending if people are going to vote or not. But what we have seen, if we look at the past trends, is that people are really moving towards the right. We've seen it on all the national levels. It's not just the Netherlands. We've seen it in Spain. We've seen it in Portugal. We've seen it in France. We've seen it in Poland. So people are fed up with the current status quo. If it will fail to really make a shift in parliament, I think it's also because people are not aware enough on how important Brussels is.
Absolutely. And many don't know that there's indeed a connection between the new MEPs that we are about to elect and the new College of Commissioners, and as well as the new Commission President. So talking about the Commission President, do you think that von der Leyen has a chance to be re-elected? Not that I'm hoping for she does, but just, or does someone else have a chance in your opinion?
I think Ursula von der Leyen is a woman that's very strategical, but she will need to form very smart alliances. And they always say, keep your enemies close, but keep your friends close. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. I think her enemy could actually be within her own party, the EPP, because there's a new article that came out on Politico where they mention, and here comes the unusual suspects, Manfred Weber. And he was actually the party leader of the EPP. So normally the party leaders are the ones that are the Spitzenkandidat that are being elected or presented as a potential candidate for the European Commission, which he was trying to run for in 2019, and he lost. But he was very smart. He was like, okay, I will accept my defeat, but he worked really well behind the scenes. He established some good relationships with national leaders within the European Commission and within the EPP. So I think if Ursula wants to have a second term, she needs to make sure that Weber is on her side, because she actually lost the sympathy and the support from the left, because she's saying to Maloney, oh, I wouldn't mind to collaborate with you. So it will be really up to Ursula to form smart and very, very strategic alliances.
So you're saying that we basically have two choices, the climate pope or the Queen of Brussels. Is there any conservative candidate who might have a chance to be the Commission president?
I think it's too early for that. I think Brussels isn't ready, although Europe is ready, but the establishment here isn't. Hopefully in 2019, when the ECR and ID and the EPP have a bigger leverage in Parliament, we see that they will get more seats as well in the European Commission. But I mean, you're from Hungary. The fact that your country is actually on the verge of losing some important positions only for the sake of not complying to the rules of Brussels says a lot.
It does. Thank you so much, Scarlett.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching, and please keep a close eye on our website and social media pages, as we're going to be reporting live from Brussels tomorrow on the 2024 EU elections.